Welcome to Season 2 of Travel Stories with Moush, the first travel podcast in the Middle East. If you love the world around you and you love to explore different landscapes, cultures, cuisines, and cities, then this is the right place for you, because here every week I'll be talking to some incredible travel enthusiasts who will take us on some fascinating journeys around the world by sharing their travel stories. For this very first episode of the new season, I am so very pleased to welcome a very special guest whose true passion in life is travel, so much so that she's even made travel her career. Zahara D'souza is an expert travel counselor who can pretty much tailor-make every travel requirement, and she's here to tell us some of the most interesting travel tales of her life. Welcome to Travel Stories, Zahara. It's such a pleasure to have you here on the very first episode of the new season.
Thank you, Moush, for having me here today. I am really looking forward to chatting with you.
Awesome. So you're a travel expert who's obviously been around the world a lot. So tell us, what really attracted you to travel so much that you made it a career?
It started when I was pretty young. My parents used to own a family business of restaurants back home in Kenya. And obviously I grew up going there on a pretty much a regular basis. And I realized my passion obviously for food already at that time. And it wasn't long before I was heading off to La Roche in Switzerland to study hotel management. And when I arrived in Switzerland, I realized that I was lost in this pool of culture. You know, it was a small village in the Swiss Alps, and out of 800 kids, there were about, I would say, 80 Swiss children, and the rest of us were all from all over the world, like different parts of the globe. I slowly began to learn about all these cultures and where people came from and what they did, and I think that really, really made me curious about travel and learning more about, different parts of the world. So I think that's really where it stemmed from, yes.
So tell me about travel counselor. Like, you're a travel counselor. What does travel counselors really do? So people who are listening know what you really do.
So Travel Counsellors is actually a model. Our head office is based in the UK, and we have a support office over here. So it's more like a franchise agreement. So all travel counselors run their businesses as individuals. We don't work together with each other, although we do support each other quite often with, maybe some people require certain tips for certain countries, and we do rely on each other for things like that. But we do run our businesses as a separate entity. It's about holding your hand from the time we meet you to the time you've actually come back from holiday and everything in between.
Amazing. Now, coming back to the podcast, where are you taking us today on a journey?
Well, you might say I'm a little bit biased, but I'm going to take you home to my country in Kenya.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So there is so much to say about Kenya. But I'm trying to try to keep it a little bit brief today. I've traveled a lot all over the world, but there's very few places which I can say have matched what Kenya has to offer. I'm not just talking about the safari and, the food.
Yes, because when you say Kenya, people immediately think safaris and animals and giraffes and everything else.
Kenya has so much to offer. It just depends on how much time you have.
Okay.
You really need to explore the country from the mountains to the rivers, lakes, bird viewing. Of course, we have our Mount Kenya. And then we have, of course, the Aberdares. But the main, of course, attraction always comes down to the Masai Mara and the annual migration every year. Although growing up, we went on safari a lot. Last year, I had the opportunity to travel to the Mara with my husband for 24 hours. And we stayed at a tented camp called Ishara. Ishara means sign in Swahili, and I believe in Arabic similar, and many other languages Ishara would mean. And we arrived, it took us 40 minutes from Nairobi, and we arrived at the Ol Kiambo airstrip in the Mara. And immediately we were picked up by our driver, and you just all of a sudden felt like you were just really in a calm, serene place. it was morning, and you could hear the birds, and it was just really, really peaceful. You could see the gazelles already running around, the zebras. As soon as we arrived at the lodge, you had to walk over like a wooden bridge, which was like, it just made it all so much more exciting. And we arrived, and obviously they had a Maasai dance for us. So the tented camp is built over stilts and looks over a river. So the setting is really beautiful, and you can't hear a sound except the sound of the animals. And we could actually hear the sound of hippos quite a lot. The food, the thing is, they're really good with their sustainable products or produces, shall I say. They do a lot for sustainability. They have their own tower farms where they grow their own produce, and then they have they support the local ladies by providing these beaded bracelets in the room that the local ladies make. What they have, a specialty of theirs, is this star bed, which is again very highly raised on stilts, and in open air you sleep there. And
this is the resort.
Yes,
Ishara.
in Ishara. Yeah. So that's like more like a honeymoon experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, we absolutely loved our stay there. We had a breakfast on the way the next morning by the river. Hosted by Ishara, and then we were able to see the migration, the animals crossing the river, the Mara. So that was the most amazing thing. And next thing, we were back on our way to Nairobi. So yeah, although I have been to the Mara many a time, this is my latest memory of the Mara, and I thought it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, but obviously, like you said, you grew up in Kenya, and you've seen the migration many a times before, and you've seen a lot of Kenya, I'm sure. But if someone were to go to Kenya for the first time, what would you recommend that they experience first as a first-time traveler?
Well, I think I'll change this question a little bit, because a lot of people from here like to travel to East Africa, and their question is, shall we go to Tanzania, to the Serengeti, or shall we go to the Mara in Kenya?
Right.
But I would suggest that you do Kenya first if you haven't done any of the other countries. I think it's simpler. It's logistically simpler as well to get from A to B. And you don't need that much time. 3 nights is enough for you to get a decent safari in. Whereas if you were to go to Serengeti, the logistics are a little bit more difficult from here, and the safari is a little bit more complicated. The Serengeti is massive, so you would need to stay in a few different places in the Serengeti.
And you can't do that in 3 days?
No.
Yeah.
I think you need a week. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course, if you're going to South Africa, you're traveling quite far as well.
Yeah. And you can't just do Kruger and come back. There's so much else in South Africa.
This is how I would differentiate between, the different countries.
So Kenya is just perfect to go if you want to just go for 3 days and experience the migration and come back.
You can literally fly in 3 nights and fly out. I mean, perfect for a long weekend, yeah.
Amazing. So obviously we spoke a little bit about Kenya and you grew up there. But going back a little into your childhood, which is that first place that kind of made you realize that you actually do love travel?
So I think it was back home in Kenya when, the family had a business of restaurants, and obviously the exposure to different people visiting from different countries was already there. But later when I went to La Roche in Switzerland, that's where my real passion, came out. It was like, this is really what I want to do, simply because I just come across so many people from different nationalities, and I was exposed to all these different cultures, different foods.
So it wasn't really a place, it was these different cultures that kind of attracted you to kind of go and explore the world and know more about cultures and people, etc., right?
Yes, totally agree. I think it was the people and not really the place that I was in.
Yeah,
true.
So which is your all-time favorite destination and why?
So I have a lot of all-time favorites, but for the sake of conversation, I'm going to say the Maldives.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've been there like 5 or 6 times, and I know a lot of people will turn around and say, but Maldives is for honeymooners, and, it's couples only, and it's not for people who have children, and, So I think over the last few years, a lot of people who had never been to the Maldives have now been to the Maldives. And I think
COVID
people
also did that
yes,
to people.
Yes. I think there was a point in time when everybody was going to the Maldives.
Yeah.
So, I think it's one of those places where it is actually for everyone. But I think what is really important about the Maldives is choosing the right island.
Correct.
See,
or the hotel. It's pretty much one island
the
per
resort.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's so much option. There's seaplane options, there's speedboat options, there's resorts that have house reefs or don't have. Some resorts only have 2 restaurants, some have 8, right? Is it a snorkeling, is it a diving area? Is it not? So I think this is really, really important that you figure out what kind of a resort you want and what your wish list is actually. Are you a foodie? Yes.
But you just mentioned like some people think, is Maldives really for children or not? But there are quite a few resorts that do not welcome children because, it's a honeymooners, paradise, etc. Now, of course, things are very different. But I think over time, things have changed. But also, I remember when we went there and our child was very little then, it was very difficult to find a resort which would welcome children. So I think that is kind of the impression that people have, that maybe not everyone's welcome, or people with kids are perhaps not welcome. I think that's kind of the feel of a lot of people out there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think times have changed a lot. I've actually been to some resorts where I feel this is more kid-friendly than adult-friendly. So we even have the opposite now.
Okay.
And I mean,
which is wonderful, I think. Yeah.
Some resorts will cater for kids, A to Z with a full-on timetable from the morning till the evening. Kids clubs, which are like super amazing.
Yeah.
But we still do have those resorts where it's adults only, or a lot of resorts have an adult only separate kind of section where they have a pool or they may have a bar. So families with kids of age who can use the kids club can actually leave their kids at the kids club and still go to the adult area for a few hours a day and just relax,
which is wonderful.
Exactly.
And this mix of both is just perfect.
It just goes to show that you just need to find the right place for yourself.
There is a place for everyone, or an island for everyone.
That's right. I had recently been to Taj Exotica in the Maldives, and I have to recommend that place was absolutely amazing. Their service,
we love recommendations. Go for it.
Their service and their food, the Taj level of cuisine is absolutely amazing. But the one I went to earlier this year was the Ozone Reserve Balifushi, and that's like really on another level. Their food choices of restaurants, it's an all-inclusive.
Okay.
So you can it's an all-inclusive dine around. So basically you can choose where you want to eat on a daily basis. They have a Moroccan, they have an Indian, Asian, and then they have daily dining restaurants as well.
Yeah, because most of the resorts are kind of all-inclusive, because you can't really step out in Maldives, right? You can't just say, I'm stepping out of the island and going to another island for dinner. I mean, that doesn't usually happen. So most of the resorts are kind of all-inclusive.
What I think is quite important when it comes to all-inclusive is to just ensure that you're not eating in the same restaurant every night, because there's an all-inclusive and then there is what is called, we call an all-inclusive dine around. So you need to ensure that you're going to a restaurant or to a resort that will allow you to dine around, so that
you can dine in different restaurants every day.
Without
okay, that's a good tip.
Without having to pay extra.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that's a
the
great
trick.
tip for Maldives, because Maldives can be very expensive otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, now Zahara, of course, the Maldives is amazing, but there are places around in the world, or sometimes things happen and it doesn't leave a very good taste in our mouths. So which is that one place that you perhaps don't fancy going back to?
I don't think I have a place that I don't fancy going back to.
It doesn't have to be the place, but sometimes, some things happen in hotels, or incidents happen that haven't left kind of a good impression for you, or you will think twice before going there.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm sure if I think back, I've had quite a few incidences over the years, but I had one recently, and that's not something that's ever going to stop me from going back to that country
Yeah,
or that
sure,
place.
yeah.
But I went for a wellness retreat recently to Chandigarh in India.
Okay.
When I arrived at the airport, they kept me there for approximately 2 hours. So the initial problem was a visa issue, that my visa had been issued only that morning and I had traveled the same day, which I didn't understand why it was such a big issue.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to be a problem if they had, unless they would have told me that you should not travel today.
Yeah. It could be a passport issue, but not a
Exactly.
visa. Yeah, sure.
I had the visa, but they said that it was issued today and that's a problem. Fine.
That is
So that
strange.
took 1 hour.
Yeah.
And then another hour took because they said that I didn't have the required inoculations. And I didn't see why I needed the inoculations that they were asking me for either. So, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth because we were extremely delayed and one of my colleagues was actually waiting for quite a long time as well. We eventually hit the road and it took us like 2.5 hours and we were going to the Suk Villas, the Oberoi Suk Villas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in
I've heard
Chandigarh.
very good stories about
beautiful,
that one.
Yeah. So 2.5 hours in traffic and then we arrived there eventually.
You did need the wellness retreat after all that.
But believe me, as soon as we just settled in and, we'd gone for dinner and had a few drinks and it was all forgotten about, you know.
But that is the
Yeah.
thing, right? I mean, when you travel and you travel around the world, so many things happen, but it's all a package deal, right?
Exactly. It's part of the journey.
Right. Okay, Zahara, now give us your hidden gem.
Okay, so by hidden gem,
You are the travel expert. I'm sure you have many up your sleeve.
The thing is, I have loads, but I have some
Special ones.
Special ones,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if this is a hidden gem, but it often comes back to mind, and it often throws me back as well. Is Montreal in Canada?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially old Montreal, the pebbled streets, the markets where they sell the cheese and the bread and cut meats and the musicians on the
Yeah, I haven't heard
street.
anyone speak of Montreal as a hidden gem.
Really?
Yeah.
The
So it's a pleasant surprise that you're saying that.
I absolutely loved it. Like I was saying, the musicians on the street and, they have these circus acts going on and ice cream vendors, little boutique restaurants. It's such a nice place for just strolling and just being, you don't have to do anything. You can just be. And I really, really loved that place. And
But what is so special about it? Aren't a lot of places in Europe like that as well?
well, obviously it's not European, it's Canadian, and it also has a French touch.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's probably what makes it a little bit different because you can feel the French in it, but you're not in France.
Right.
And it's different from
Yeah.
France. So yeah.
Okay, so it is special for you.
For me, I think it's special, and I'm sure there's people out there who feel that it's a nice little location.
Okay, wonderful. So now, if you had to travel around the world and if you had to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner in 3 different places in a day, where would you want to have?
I think if I was to indulge in breakfast, it would be an Indian breakfast, definitely. Either North or South Indian, depending on if I'm looking for...
So you would go to India for that?
I would, yeah. I would go to...
So breakfast in India.
Definitely, yeah. I would say for lunch, I would go to Thailand. Yeah. Maybe a nice, tom yum soup with some steamed sea bass, lemon infused or something. I would prefer to eat at the seafood market, where they cook it in front of you. So it's safe, but still it's like, fresh and it's authentic.
Right.
So, and then for dinner, I think I would be in the Swiss Alps, maybe a nice cheese fondue with
Nice.
a crisp white wine or maybe a herbal tea, depending on, what the mood is like. So yeah, I can recommend a couple of places for the Swiss fondue.
Yeah, go for it.
So we had a really nice restaurant in Bluche where I went to university. It was called Le Petit Paradis, and they used to make the most amazing Swiss fondue, cheese fondue, sorry. And Yeah, we used to go there all the time to treat ourselves. I think we had a little bit too much cheese at that time too.
And why not? It's Switzerland after all.
Yeah.
So, you've been in Dubai for a while now, and of course, we are spoiled for choice over here when it comes to food. If you had to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner in 3 different places around here in the UAE or in Dubai, where would it be?
Okay, so since breakfast is going to be an Indian one, it's going to be in Karama in Woodlands.
Okay.
Yeah. For lunch, I think I would go to LPM, Le Petit Maison, otherwise known as previously. I think they make really, really good food. All their food is also very,
And they have been
very
consistent.
tasty. Yeah, that's the thing. All these years, right?
Yeah.
The burrata is amazing. They also have a good, I think it's a lamb dish, but I can't remember exactly what their name of the lamb was. But it's really nice. And they also do a nice baked sea bass.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then their creme brulee.
Yeah.
That is, that takes
I think
the
everything
cake.
there is
Yeah,
pretty
that's the
spot
thing.
on,
Sometimes
yeah.
you just want a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's better to go as a group. Yeah.
And for dinner?
And for dinner, where would I go? Oh, yes. I think I would go to a family-owned Sri Lankan restaurant.
Oh.
Yeah, it's called Thushanis. It's in
Okay.
Discovery Gardens.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, they make a mean prawn curry. Yeah.
All
They have
right.
really good food.
And it's called Tushani.
Yes, it's called Tushani.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just a very simple restaurant with great food. Totally recommend it. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So we have these 3 recommendations from you for food. Now, if you had to recommend one experience in the UAE for people who are listening and who want to come here, or even for people who live in the UAE, which is that one experience that you would highly recommend out here?
If it's only one experience, then I think I would definitely go with Hatta Hub. It's located just next to the Hatta Fort Hotel, which is also very nice. But it's this big kind of park setting where you can, do a whole bunch of activities.
Okay.
From
It's like a
zip
day trip then?
lining. You can actually camp there.
Okay.
Or you can stay in caravans. Or you can even
Okay.
stay in like the 5-star accommodation that they
Right,
have.
right.
So it's really up to you.
Yeah.
But they have, I believe it's 16 activities. So they have the Zorball, they have water slides, they have some
They
kind
have those
of
trailers
activities.
there,
Yes,
right?
the
Okay.
cedar trailers.
Yeah. Okay.
Hiking, biking. It's amazing, really. Especially, I think for people who live in the UAE, it's definitely a great place to go during the winter. We usually camp. We carry our marshmallows and everything, and it's just
Nice.
like. And they have the facilities if you'd like to shower and stuff as well. So it's a really like all-rounder.
So even if you carry your own camp, you can shower there, and they have all the other
Yes.
facilities. But you
Yes.
can also rent out a trailer if you want.
So you can either rent out or pay for an accommodation, or you pay for like a spot on the camp. So you can park your car, and then they have a barbecue pit, they have the bins, they have running water. So you can use all their facilities, and for something very like charge is very minimal. But definitely recommend it, especially if you've got kids, they would love it.
Okay, Zahara. So we've been hopping and skipping around the world with you a little bit. So what is next for you in travel? What is on your bucket list?
I think I'd like to explore more of Eastern Europe. It's not somewhere I'm very familiar with, and Croatia, Serbia, those kinds of places. That's probably something that I want to do. Maybe Serbia for the skiing as well. And yeah, maybe a self-drive around Croatia.
Oh, Croatia is amazing. Yeah.
I really am looking forward to doing something
Yeah,
like
and Croatia
that.
has everything. Like,
That's
it has
the
the
thing.
mountain, it has the
Beach.
sea,
Yeah.
fabulous wine. So you
Yeah.
literally can go on a, wine tasting trip as well. Great food, seafood. It's just got everything. It's such a beautiful country.
And it's not that far either, right?
It's not that
That's the
far.
thing.
And you can
Yeah.
literally drive from one end to the other. And if you
Yeah.
drive a little more, then you go down to Montenegro. You can also go via Bosnia and Herzegovina. And so that whole patch is such a beautiful area of the world. I highly recommend.
Thank
You
you.
must go. So, yeah, I really hope you get to go to Croatia and to all the other Eastern European countries and enjoy all of that. Now, we've almost come to the end of the podcast. Where can people find you if they want to go on a trip with you or recommended by you?
So on Instagram, I'm Elegant Escapes by Zahara, and I'm also available on Facebook as
Okay.
Elegant Escapes by Zahara. And then I also have a website that I can be reached at. That's a travel counselor's website.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Zahara. It was so wonderful talking to you and going on all these various trips with you. I wish you all the best, and I am hoping to go on a journey with you soon sometime.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.